GBTC experiences over $4 billion in Bitcoin outflows. Has the dumping ended? Blackrock and Fidelity see massive Bitcoin inflows. Jack Maller FUDs ETH and all altcoins. Bitwise publishes their Bitcoin ETF wallet, and the SEC delays BlackRock's ETH ETF proposal. Hey everybody, welcome back to Crypto Daily. So we've had a pretty heated week in the crypto markets. We've obviously seen kind of a opposite reaction to the Bitcoin ETF that I think a lot of people wanted to see. Although if you were kind of active on X and in other places, you probably would have noticed that a lot of people were expecting Bitcoin to not perform well. They were expecting a, buy the rumor, sell the news event. So I think that's pretty much what we've seen. But a lot of people are kind of pointing to Grayscale as kind of the leading indicator for why this is happening. So Bitcoin at 39,800 today, down a little bit on the day. But yeah, we've been just kind of fighting for this 40K level. And like I said, a lot of people think it's related to Grayscale. So the total Grayscale outflows, and this article talks about it, the total outflows from the fund to Coinbase Prime is 105,910 Bitcoin, which is worth over $4 billion since January 12th, which is when the spot ETFs got approved. So we've seen obviously these huge outflows. A lot of people bought GBTC when it was heavily discounted. At one point, you could buy it at like a 50% discount on GBTC. And I actually was talking about making that trade for a long time, especially when it seemed that the ETFs were going to happen and Grayscale would convert. Obviously, at that point, the discount closed very quickly because people realized that it was kind of a no-brainer trade. But definitely something that I was watching. And now that a lot of those people have bought, cheap GBTC, they're in the profit, obviously buying it, and Bitcoin was lower as well. And then now the Bitcoin price being higher and the GBTC discount obviously being closed, that makes it kind of that easy close of the arbitrage. So now you're seeing a lot of that Bitcoin that Grayscale held get sent to Coinbase and sold. So a lot of people pointing to that as the main driver for Bitcoin not performing as well as we all would have hoped in a post-ETF world. But that may be coming to an end. So that article kind of talked about how it seems to have slowed down a little bit. So we'll be watching the daily outflows and see, if that's over. It has to end at some point. This is all just a big arbitrage that's getting closed. So as soon as that's closed, you're going to see these outflows significantly decrease. And you can see these individual transactions that have been getting tracked by Arkham Intelligence. So we're looking at like an average of $30 million a day worth of Bitcoin that's getting sent out from Grayscale. So, when this is over, hopefully we see a turn of events for Bitcoin in general. The other funds, and that's what we're getting into next, like BlackRock and Fidelity, are seeing massive inflows. You're seeing them buy ridiculous amounts of Bitcoin every single day for their spot ETFs. So, if this inflow continues and eventually the GBTC outflow stops, we might see that event that take place that we all wanted to see for, a post-ETF world. So moving on from the ETFs, Jack Maller is kind of an interesting figure in the crypto space. Obviously, he's made a name for himself by having harsh takes, so I don't think this is anything different. But typical Bitcoin maximalist fashion, he FUDs Ethereum. Obviously, I don't think he said anything that was necessarily wrong about Ethereum. There was a pre-mine, there was a fork, there was a DAO hack. ETH has changed its policies. That being said, I don't think Ethereum ever was meant to, compete with Bitcoin in terms of having, rigid monetary policy and solving, world money, or, being the world's reserve store of value. So I think if you look at everything in a Bitcoin lens, kind of like Jack Maller and other, Bitcoin maximalists do, you see things, the only value you see in crypto is what Bitcoin is, and nothing does what Bitcoin does better than Bitcoin. So if you see everything in that kind of lens, then in my opinion is that you think everything else is trash. But if you look at other cryptos as having their own use case, I think you see a much different picture. And this being said by someone who the majority of my portfolio is Bitcoin, and then I have some altcoins in there, a handful that I believe in. So that's my personal take on it, is that like these Bitcoin maximalists only see everything in a lens of what Bitcoin can do, and that all altcoins just try to do what Bitcoin does but fail at it, versus seeing things like, Rune, which I'm pretty heavily invested in. That's a decentralized exchange. Bitcoin is not a decentralized exchange. It's not, trying to build an exchange product. But something like Rune is. Rune is not trying to be Bitcoin. It's trying to be its own thing. So I think the same thing for Ethereum and many other altcoins. If you look at them as their own thing with their own use case, provided that they actually, have a usable product with a good use case and product market fit, then I think that they have their own level of value. So just a video that I saw that was, an interesting take, especially with all the, Bitcoin ETF stuff happening, where people are kind of heavily focused on Bitcoin and FUDing altcoins. So Justin Sun, not someone I would typically quote, but in this case, I actually think he has obviously a good take on the future. He says, in the future, all crypto exchanges will transition to a decentralized model. So I think that's pretty obvious. I think most of us have talked about that. I don't think all crypto exchanges will be decentralized. I think there's still going to be plenty of centralized ones. There's way too much money out there to be made. That being said, I do think there's a future where decentralized exchanges overtake centralized exchanges in terms of trading volume. And that's a future that I obviously want to see. I was just talking about Rune, which I, am obviously heavily invested in. And their whole thing is building a decentralized exchange. And this next tweet to look at, their monthly trading volume has just exploded exponentially throughout the year. So you can kind of see towards the tail end of 2023, it just, skyrocketed. Big reason for that is streaming swaps, which, obviously that's not really the topic for this video, but the whole point is decentralized exchanges are going to be more and more valuable going forward. And I think they're going to just keep sucking in trading volume and be a bigger thing. So that's how I've positioned my portfolio. So BlackRock's head of the iShares product said, by every measure, their spot Bitcoin ETF launch has gone incredibly well. Bitcoin is a new emerging asset class. So you've seen Larry Fink say positive things about Bitcoin. Now you're obviously seeing the head of the iShares product, which is obviously to be expected, saying positive things about Bitcoin. Now that TradFi has a product that they can sell to their customers and make money on, you're going to see them talking about Bitcoin. You're going to see them pushing Bitcoin to their clients. This is obviously what we wanted to see in a post-ETF world. And while we haven't seen a rise in the Bitcoin price since the ETF went live, I think it's just a matter of time. Things need to build up momentum and steam. But eventually, I think you're going to see a big rise in the Bitcoin price because of all the Bitcoin that's getting sucked into these ETFs. And then obviously we're 75 days away from the Bitcoin halvening. So you've got the demand shock from the ETFs, and then you've got the supply shock from the halvening coming soon. So Bitwise has become the first Bitcoin ETF to publish the public address for their Bitcoin holdings for their ETF. So now you can see their Bitcoin holdings. You can see exactly how much Bitcoin is in the trust, and you can track it in real time. This is made possible because of Bitcoin and decentralized ledger technology. So I think it's super cool to see, and I hope to see other ETFs do the same. Whether they have one Bitcoin address or multiple, it'd be really awesome. Just imagine a world where BlackRock, Fidelity, and all these other ETFs have their public wallet address available for everyone to verify how much Bitcoin they have and kind of track the inflows and outflows of it. So the SEC delays BlackRock's spot Ethereum ETF. So a lot of people were kind of looking forward to this ETH ETF getting approved and kind of coinciding with the Bitcoin ETF. I saw some of these funny replies where they talk about, obviously the SEC kind of messing around with people. I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to have to approve this ETF at some point. Same thing happened with Bitcoin, but they kind of delay it and kind of give everyone a hard time for whatever, power tripping reasons that they've got. So eventually we're going to see this come to light. But that's all I got for today. I'll see you guys tomorrow.